Retailer's Roadmap Cruise Control, where we navigate the roadways of life, business, and everything in between. Hey guys, it's Kevin Davis from the Cruise Control Podcast. This is episode number 29. I'm here with Meghan Poirier, who she told me specifically that's the right way to pronounce it. So Meghan and I have known each other for probably about a decade or so, and I consider her a friend of mine. Always a pleasure to spend some time with her. Meghan is the COO of Car Candy Automotive Detail Products, which is kind of a move for her relatively recently. So we can get into that and talk about that a little bit. But Chief Operating Officer. So thanks very much for joining me, Meghan. I appreciate you taking the time and giving us a little bit of time tonight.
No problem. It's great to sit with you, Kevin. But we've been friends forever, it seems like.
Yeah, which, depending on which side you're on, could be a good thing or bad thing, as Michelle tells me. But hey, give me, one of the things I ask on this podcast is to get kind of the superhero detailing backstory, right? And so, for you, it's kind of detail business backstory. So talk, I know that you have been in the industry for 25 years plus. So, kind of give me that background. It could even be longer than that, but run through some of your background and kind of, because one of the purposes of this whole podcast is for some of our industry leaders, for people to also just get to know kind of a little bit about the backstory. And then that gives a little bit of a basis for us to kind of move forward and talk about some of the business stuff.
Absolutely. So not over 25 years, because I just turned 50 this year, but thanks for trying to age me a little bit.
Hey, I turned 50 as well. So not over 25 years, under 25 years. There you go.
It's knocking on the door. Let's put it that way. But no, I kind of rolled into this industry kind of by mistake. At the time, I was a commercial photographer, and, I own my own photography company, and I started doing a little bit of work with Auto Geek. It became kind of a little bit more than a little work. They were going from catalog company, to a website that will tell you how old I am. And so as we were building the website, I just kind of got a little bit more and more involved. There was at that time 3 other employees. So, we were a very small company trying to make a pretty big imprint on the industry. And so, as we kind of, started doing our thing, I don't know if I fell in love with it or if it just kind of grabbed me and I couldn't let go. But I ended up kind of phasing out doing photography and doing, kind of the whole Auto Geek thing. And that was 22 years of my life. So, wow. We started from 3 or 4 employees. I think when I left, we were at 50, and it just was good timing for me. The company kind of was changing the path it was going. They changed just kind of their whole layout. And, I thought it was a good time for me maybe to try something a little different. And here I am still in the detailing industry. So I will say I'm doing something completely different in terms of just, the sheer fact that, we're making chemicals here, we're producing them. We have a lab, we have a chemist, we're fulfilling, bottles and labeling them on the line. So you kind of see something come from an idea to, here it is, it can go on a shelf and, I don't know. I think for me, it's kind of like, I don't have children of my own, but it's like one of those, it's your baby. Mm-hmm. You have the idea and then you've created this and now, something to be proud of. So I'm really enjoying this, because I get to see things happen in real time and, it's just a little something different for me. And, it's a good time to shake it up. So I'm enjoying it.
It's kind of funny because you're at Auto Geek for 22 years, Palm Beach Motoring Group, Auto Geek. And it's kind of like having a child and then raising that child to adulthood. And I've got a 25-year-old and a 23-year-old. So follow me with this analogy. But and then the kid kind of changes and goes off and does their thing. And they're like, I think I'll just start a new family and have another kid. That's basically, that's kind of what you did. Cause you're now in that thing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what, it's, I kind of had thought about this last night. It's really hard because, when I was at Auto Geek or, Envision Investments, I always say Auto Geek, but we were a lot of things besides Auto
Yeah.
Geek. But, we had staff members that were with me for, 15, 20 years. And at some point, and usually it's pretty early for me, they become family.
Mm-hmm.
I knew their family. I actually saw some kids get married and have families. And
Wow.
so it's really hard because you're not really just walking away from a job, a career, and, stability and, all those fun things, but you're also walking away from people that you've experienced every high and low in their life with them. And so, it's kind of like picking up and moving to a different state away from your family,
Yeah.
and it's always a little rough at first, but then the excitement of the new family kind of kicks in, and like you said, you're an empty nester, and you're like, all right, I need to get a new hobby now.
And so, like, I assume because you didn't move, right? Like, you're still in the
Oh,
same. You're still, or did you move?
well, not officially.
Not officially. Okay. I don't know if I was supposed to ask that question, but
No. It's actually a relatively new topic. Yeah. So when I first took the position, it was remote for maybe a few days a week. It's only about a 2-hour drive.
oh, okay.
But I think we found out early on that that might not be the best situation. Um, I kind of like to be hands on.
Mm-hmm.
Strangely enough, when I started, in January. The owner went on maternity leave shortly after that. So talk about throw yourself to the fire and see how
Yeah.
well you do. um, she's obviously back, but since then, the daily operation part of this and just what goes on, in and out of the hallways, the people. If you're going to build a company and grow and get it out there, it's I don't know, you got to have your hands on it,
Mm-hmm.
and you got to be there and support the people. And I think for me, it's, I hate to say it this way, but you want to do it half ass, and
Right.
the only way
Yeah.
I can find a way to do it where I feel comfortable about what I'm giving them is to be here. So to backtrack, I've had kind of a little apartment situation that I come to during the week and then I go home. I did just sign a lease on a house and I am listing my other house for sale.
Wow. And how does
So
your significant other feel about this little
we all
endeavor?
just got to roll with the punches. That's all I can say. You know, um, Actually, something good kind of came of this. My brother's always wanted to buy property over here, and he's a police officer who's due to retire soon. So now he's starting to look. Um, him and my mother were a huge issue for me because she's at that age where I don't want her being
Mm-hmm.
outside of an easy drive. So we had that conversation this weekend. That's why I was like, "Wow, you just come right at me with it, Kevin." Woo. So yeah, we've had those tough conversations, and we're everybody involved is in a very good place.
Oh,
So
that's good. Yeah. I mean, it's hard when you've been in a place for that long. We've been in this house for 20 plus years. It'll actually be 20 years in November. And, my wife has basically said, you can totally move if you want to. I'm, ne- I'm never leaving this place. So like, I don't, so I understand when you've been in a certain area for such a long time that it's even 2 hours away is a lot, I would guess.
yeah, yeah, and you know what? This is what I tell everybody. It's the same thing just with making a decision on changing jobs. You can be comfortable and status quo and just kind of hang out and do your thing and ride out into the sunset. I think for all of us, change, especially as you get older, is, not always fun. But, for me, I always have to look at things on the positive side.
Mhm.
Job wise, I get an opportunity to help a company grow and become something much larger, than, it was. And, I hope I can do that for them. And for me, there's two things about moving over here. There's a lot of property. So I could maybe possibly have a goat and a little Highland cow or something. So I always got to look
We
at the
we
positive.
have we have three hairy cows, as I call them, that live right next door. And so I see them every morning when I do my walk. I call them the hairy cows. But
That's kind of been my focus. A hairy cow, maybe a little wraparound porch, possibly a goat. Although the last time I owned one, they were annoying, so I don't even know why I'm thinking about it again. But I just try to focus on the things that I know that would make me happy. And then from there, we'll deal with the rest.
Yeah, get a little bit extra space and be able to kind of, maybe make this the last home, or
Yes.
that kind of thing. And that's always something too. I made the mistake of building Michelle her dream home in 2003. And like down to, there's literally like one light switch that the two of us agree we need and don't have. But other than that, the house is absolutely perfect for her. So
Well, good.
so we're definitely sticking around, or at least we'll keep the house, and maybe hopefully have a beach home or something somewhere. But so the Car Candy was a brand that honestly, until you started with them and I kind of started following, and obviously we're friends, and so I see kind of what you're doing, they've largely concentrated more on the car wash type side of the thing, right? Have they predominantly done blending and all that? Because it's what I would consider a birth to grave company, because you have full blending, full chemistry, product development, and then obviously sales, and then throughout the whole thing, consumer, B2B, all of that, right? Is that an accurate perception?
Yeah, I definitely think that is. One of the things that I appreciate about kind of the business model is not all eggs are in one basket. Obviously, because we're a lab and we make our own products, we're able to private label for people. And, we have some great clients we private label for. And that's a business that, we enjoy.
Wait a minute. Wait, I got to stop you right there. We know that all detailing brands have their own chemist who they keep in the basement. This joke
no, it's in the bathroom. It's in the bathroom.
Bathtub blenders. If you've never heard that phrase before, that's, and obviously I'm being sarcastic, but it's funny that you will say, hey, we have white label and private label people. This is something that happens in our industry. But anyway, I interrupted you.
Well, you know what? It's, at some point you all got to be honest. But anyway, so, we have that. We also have route trucks. So we cover a good amount of area, in the state of Florida. We also have a little bit of trucking accessibility where we're able to, with our semis, get, to Jacksonville, to Miami, cover the state of Florida. But we handle, I don't know, a lot of dealerships, a lot of car washes, a lot of detail shops. And then, we get our brand out, whether it's in 32 ounces all the way up to drums and totes, depending on who needs it. We have a lot of large clients that go through a lot of product, even larger than the car washes and the dealership level. I don't want to give them all up because I don't give anybody any ideas. But
yeah,
there's a lot of different places that the Car Candy brand is going to, which is good because, it helps you be a little bit more recession proof. It also, if one's up, the other one's down, it's okay. We all know in detailing, there's a few months out of the year where nobody's detailing. We kind of were having this candid conversation today, like you would think July is a great month, but sometimes July is a horrible month because everybody's vacationing, the kids are out of school, so having your hand in a few different baskets gives you a great opportunity to keep moving. It's a great positive cash flow. And I just think it makes for really good business. What we are trying to do now that I am here is really focus and dial in the Car Candy brand itself. We've added on a lot of products that we'll be launching at SEMA. And we just really want to take that brand, a little bit more to the retail end, opposed to, that's the one area that I think, we could benefit a little bit more from. Because I think we've been focusing, we have some really healthy different channels that we've been focusing on, but there's never too many channels. Revenue can come from all different places, and until you've maxed them out all, and I don't think we've all ever said we've maxed out that, you just keep looking for that different area. And so that's kind of our focus. It's our first year at SEMA. We've invested a good amount of money in the booth and in some marketing, and so I think everybody will notice at SEMA that Car Candies, we're here to play.
This episode is brought to you by Detailer's Roadmap. Hey, spoiler alert, that's us. We all know you need a kick-ass website in order to be successful with your business. The good news is at Detailer's Roadmap, kick-ass websites, that's kind of what we do. With the latest performance, designs, and SEO strategies, Detailer's Roadmap is your one-stop shop to be successful on the web. And don't forget, we have the best support team in the industry. Whether you're an existing partner looking to improve your lead generation or you need a brand new website, Detailer's Roadmap is here to help you be successful on the web. So go to detailersroadmap.com/success and get started today. That's detailersroadmap.com/SUCCESS. That's cool. And it's got some cool branding. I have noticed some of the earlier posts when you had labels and products and all that stuff. I've noticed a distinct difference between those labels and the design and some of the branding versus kind of what you're working with now, right? Like I assume that you were part of that transition into kind of you're continuing to, let's call it, refine the brand, right?
Yeah, we're dialing it in. To be honest with you, haven't seen any of our new labels yet. We actually, every product has gone under a complete review on the label. We have done a refresh. When I got here, we didn't have UPCs or part numbers on the label. And I know just from running a large warehouse, that's just a no.
Yeah.
So, and especially if I'm coming to you and, hey, I want you to be a distributor, you're like, could I have some part numbers? So, those are the things when, you're not focused on retail, you don't really think about. But, now that we are going to focus on that, you will notice the packages now will be, shelf ready. And we'll unveil all that at SEMA. So, but yes, we are working on our marketing and our social media and promoting. You definitely will notice our footprint's getting much larger. Putting in the time and effort. We are very blessed. We have an owner that is extremely involved in day-to-day operations. She's here, every day. She just had a baby, so Thursday's baby day at home. But we're pretty lucky. We have, access to her. We have ideas. We all sit down and discuss things. So I feel like we're making moves, at a good rate. The brand, I feel like a lot of people have said, I've never even heard of this brand, and now suddenly I do. That's what I want to hear. Obviously,
yeah, that's good. Yeah.
If they don't hear that, then they probably had no need to bring me on. So, I'm going to be unemployed if I don't hear that a little bit. So yeah, that is our plan is, I want people to know what Car Candy is. We want to get it out there. We're pushing, after SEMA to get distributors. We want to get Car Candy, scattered out. We've really claimed Florida in a very good way because we're able to, cover it. But now we're looking to really, get it out there. We've added on a couple of new countries that we're working with. So, for us, it's just, you want to get the reach out there. You want people, when they call and they're like, hey, is there anybody in Ohio that has Car Candy? We're like, yeah, there's like 4 people. You know what I mean? So that's our plan.
And do they all run, like in most of those areas, are they just doing like WD warehouse distributing stuff? Or is your model more of, let's put this on the truck and take, those kind of models? Because in different areas, like in my area, those don't exist. Because I'm up in the middle of nowhere. But I know in a lot of areas, those route trucks still exist.
Yeah. So for us, the route trucks are, they're important to business here. When I first got here, I was like, route trucks? Well, that sounds strange. And then, I kind of looked at the numbers and I was like, wow, route trucks. That's not a bad idea. So, for us, it works because we are able to have them come here and they're, reaching out to the community around us. I don't think the route truck goes any further than probably maybe an hour and a half from the shop. And we do have other warehouses set up, that they're accessing. So they're not coming back here for everything. But what we really want is, we just want distributors that, we can ship to that, this, West Coast and East Coast. If you're an East Coast company, you really need somebody on the West Coast because shipping takes too long. Shipping's too expensive. So for us, we want to get out there. We want to be in, if it's detail shops, if it's detail stores, I have a lot of people we talk to that they do distribution and they carry 3 or 4 different brands. And now, they're in discussions to bring on, us to add it. So to me, I want to get it out there to them, support them, give them all the support they need, but then let them make some money off of our brand. So that's the plan.
Yeah. And the nice thing about not having so many hands in the pot, right? I'm sure the margins are pretty good, and be able to do wholesale at a decent rate and all that versus, hey, I'm paying a bottler to put it in the bottle. I'm paying for the labels, and then I have to sell it to somebody else so that they can sell it to somebody else. That's, for a couple of our brands, that's always been a challenge for us, especially with liquids and chemicals and all that. Cause it's hard to leave any meat on the bone. Honestly,
Yes.
that's where it does become a challenge.
Yeah. And that's, one of I think the tools we have in our, tool chest to work with is I can go to these distributors and say, you know what, I want you to make money too. There's enough for both of us because, 2 days ago, this product was water, a powder, and a few liquids, and we made it happen. And because of that, the profit it's on our side to work with these distributors. And you know what? You want people to make money.
Right.
Because if they're making money, they're happy and they'll continue to support your brand. So for us, it's, support to distributors. And I mentioned this with the owner when I first got here. I saw it from the other side. I saw it from the person that had 139 brands. And, when you had a company work for you to help you sell their brand and they supported you, whether it's, videos or, flyers, it doesn't matter. Or, hey, here's an extra 5% for marketing or, whatever it is, co-ops. All of those things say we're partners. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of how we're going with this brand now. We want to partner with people. I want to look at these people that they become our family. I want them to be profitable. I want them to be able to, feed their children, and say, hey, Car Candy gave us a good opportunity and we're going to support them because they support us. So that's kind of our theory as we're going forward. And I think, it should make this brand pretty successful.
And are you thinking about, kind of the small, a relatively small detail shop that can hit MOQs and that kind of thing in store? Because I know there's a couple of brands right now that are, friends of ours that have that kind of model. Is that something you're looking at, or are you looking at more kind of warehouse distribution? I'm always curious when different companies, because obviously I have multiple brands, and so mine are much smaller than Car Candy, all of them combined. But I'm always interested in kind of knowing what that model looks like, both for my own edification and just because I'm curious.
So we do, I think with any brand, you would see something like this. Some people refer to it as a tier pricing. Some people refer to it as, we have different price lists based off of. My thing is, if you have a detailer that comes to you, and I have one in mind that we were just discussing today, and they are using the product in their shop and they are turning over a little product in their lobby or their store, we want to support them. One, they're using the product. What are you going to say? But thank you. I love it.
Right.
So if you can get them in a situation where, these guys are busting their butt in the garage all day, polishing paint, if they can get maintenance products sold to their customers and we can help them with that, then we're all in. Our thing is they're already buying coatings from us. So why wouldn't you just go ahead and then buy the rest of the stuff? So yes, to answer your question, there is a platform for everybody. We try to make it to where no matter who you are, there's a little bit, a profit in there, even for the littlest guy, because we want to support them. And if they're using our products in their shop, well, what better way to say thank you?
Right.
Again, it always goes back to, if I take care of you, you're going to take care of me, and we're going to work together. And we do that on every level.
And that, it's really cool because there are a lot of shops now that, everybody thinks, oh, I need to put my brand name on a bunch of 16-ounce bottles, throw in my lobby, I'm going to make a ton of money. First of all, you're not going to make any money really doing that. And speaking from a guy that literally owns a domain about how to teach people to private label their own stuff. So just full disclosure there, I have been on that side of things. But to be able to pair yourself and to align yourself with a great brand that has interesting branding in and of itself, can kind of deliver everything from start to finish and be the support that you need. I think that's, and and maybe it's not Car Candy, but maybe it's another brand, but having that as an option is something that I think a lot of detail shops probably don't maybe think about.
Yeah. And you know what? To go off of that, we're already going to spend the money to market Car Candy. We're already going to go to shows. We're already going to raise the awareness of the brand name. So, if you've got, Sugar Sand, Car Care Line, at your shop, you are the only guy that's going to be screaming from the rooftops about it. So to your point about that, if you're going to bring a brand into your shop, do you want to start from ground zero? And listen, if you do, I'm here to support you too. But, my whole thing is somebody's already spending that money to market that. Mm-hmm. They already have somebody doing social media. They're already paying hundreds of $1,000s to go to trade shows, build booths, put out the marketing. Why? Why not ride that coattail? Because in your shop, the average guy coming in and out, there's hardly no chance they're going to see your brand somewhere. But, if somebody's putting, all these large numbers behind it, then maybe there's a little bit something that says, oh, wait, I've seen that somewhere. So, that's kind of always been my thought on that. But there are people that do want their name on a bottle because they want their clients to remember the name of their shop. I support that too. I don't think it's bad. It might not be for everybody, but if it's what you want, well, I can make that happen for you.
Yeah. Yeah. The private label side of things is definitely there. And you can do, with like Detailer's Helper, we've always done co-branding with different brands. By the way, we need to talk offline about that. But, but that's another option, like Car Candy making a maintenance kit that then comes in a co-branded package, comes in a co-branded case that can go in the trunk or something. I'm just throwing out ideas for you in case you haven't already thought of this, because you probably already have. But to have that as a co-branding option, whereas, and again, private labeling works, but it does take a little bit of volume. Like there are MOQs that you have to go through in order to be able to do that. There are label costs and label design, and having gone through that multiple times, it's not cheap. And it takes a long time. That's just, you got to buy UPC codes. You got to buy GS1, registrations and all of those things. So it's definitely a challenge.
Unless your company you're working with does all that for you.
Right. Yeah. So talk to me about a private label program. Like, because this is an option we can, because obviously we're targeting a lot of detail shops and people that are looking to expand their revenue within their shop, whether it be adding services. And I think that the product part of it as a maintenance kit, as something to offer their customers. And, you're not going to pull in, for most shops, you're not going to pull in 10 grand a month off of maintenance kit sales, unless you're, unless you're just a huge shop that does a crap ton of volume. And so this isn't going to be one of those things where you're going to make, $250,000 a year in retail sales from the lobby of your detail shop. But I'm trying to educate people about, there are different options. And I think, so really with Car Candy, we've got like our brand versus private labeling and what those two sides might look like. We don't have to give away any proprietary secrets, but, kind of in general, what that might look like for your average detail shop.
Yeah, so there's a lot of different ways to kind of look at the private labeling. What we are trying to do for next year is we try to do full service. So like you said, say John Smith down the road has a detail shop and he wants 6 maintenance products. He wants John Smith detailing. He doesn't really have a logo because he didn't really create one for his shop already. He doesn't have any idea about UPCs. He doesn't even know what a pictogram is, or is it hazardous? Right. We want to be able to provide all that. So we are, currently getting ready to bring in full-time in-house graphic artists that would be able to handle the private label side of stuff. Whether we need graphics, we need logo designs, we need labels designed. Because we do have a chemist in house, we're able to, produce these SDS sheets pretty quickly. We're able to make sure we have all the proper warnings, the pictograms, we're capable of, ordering and getting the UPCs for them. We're able to get all that done for the client. So that's one of the things that kind of will set us apart a little bit from the private labels versus others. If you come to us and say, you know what, I don't want to touch anything, I just want you to make it happen, well, then we're going to be able to do that for you. We're probably a couple months out on the complete package, but we are probably 80% there because we were already doing most of it. I just wanted to make it a little bit more one stop. So we are going to bring somebody in and kind of, I like to say, round out to where every aspect of that will be handled for you. And I think that'll be, just easier. If you're running a business, time is not always on your side. Some of these things take a lot of time. We've had clients that struggle with the labels or the design and, directions and, the warnings. Some of that is just completely foreign to somebody that's, polishes paint for a living. It's not, they shouldn't know about it. If they did, then, kudos for them. So for us, we want to make sure that you can come to us and really you give the ask and then we handle to the end. And that's the goal for, January of next year. Like I said, we're pretty close to it.
That's awesome.
We've been making it happen. We just want to make sure that's all happening under our roof right now.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I've got one of my brands. I have a line of supplements, right? And it's really that exact model. I actually I went out and did my own labels just because I have that resource to do it. But they gave me very specific guidelines on the labels. Like I literally got to change like one line plus the name. Because when you're talking about stuff that people put in their bodies, as it turns out, there's a lot of laws that go with that. But similarly, when you're talking about chemicals that people are dealing with, there are a lot of laws and stuff there that you have to make sure that the labels, like you're saying, the pictogram for caustic materials or flammable or whatever those things are, to make sure that that's on there. And my assumption, based on going through this before with my own brands, is that you have, all right, these are our off-the-shelf offerings. Like I want a car wash soap. I want it in 16 or 32 ounce bottles with my label and all that. But I want it to smell like, I don't know, Jägermeister. Then you start getting into more of an MOQ, right? Because of the batches and that kind of thing, right? Yes. So, because I don't think a lot of people really understand like private labeling at a low MOQ, and MOQ is minimum order quantity in case people don't understand that. Most of the time, there are large totes that have said product. We put them in the bottle and put your label on them and ship them off to you, right? So if you want to vary that and say, hey, I really like this grape soda smelling product, which we won't name the name of my favorite grape soda product. Unfortunately, it's not Car Candy currently, so you have to send me something. But like, I love that smell. So if I was going to do a different product that wanted that smell, I may be willing to say, well, give me 1,000 gallons of it. I need a tote to make it possible, right? Is that kind of how that works?
Yeah. So I can tell you exactly how it works. We don't really have any secrets on that here. So I met with a client this week and they have a product. They tested a product we have. They want it slightly different. And of course they want a different smell. When we start going into a custom, I call it a recipe. At that point, then you're looking at a tote. I think it's 250 to 270 gallons is the minimum to run a, custom one. Same client brought me a product that we don't even manufacture. It'll be completely from ground zero for us. And we'll start the, process of making that chemical. They'll try it out. They'll bring us back, the tweaks they want, and then we'll go back to them. Same thing. It's going to be a minimum of 250 gallons, for that product. So we do a lot of custom products for people that bring us their ideas. And, we're lucky. We have the chemist, the chemistry. We've got everything here. We bring in the raw goods in very large bulk containers. We have tankers out back of chemicals and, just we have the capabilities to just about make anything. And to be honest with you, car detailing products is part of what we do. We do brake cleaners, we do lacquer thinner, we do solvents. We do a lot of things some people don't want to touch in the acid form.
Yeah.
I just had, somebody here that's in this industry and they're like, oh no, we don't like to, touch on that kind of stuff. But we do the acids. We do the things people say no to. We say yes to them. And that's been a definite learning curve for me too, because I've never seen anybody dress up in the suits that these guys put on to, take care of these chemicals. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like a scene from like Ghostbusters here. But we do all of that. I think our range, it just runs deep on what we can do. Floor cleaners. It just, a client will bring us something and we have the capability of making it happen. But not just that, Car Candy is our brand, but our company is Ultra Look, and Ultra Look is a chemical company. So, we're capable of just about anything, hopefully.
Yeah. I mean, and that's, there's, I've always talked about maybe 5 or 6 blenders in the US, right? Is that an accurate, there's less than 10 detail product blenders in the United States, right? I mean, I always think of maybe 3 or 4 that are kind of the big names. You know of 10, right? So which is, I mean, that's a small number considering how many brands there really are.
Yeah.
Right. And we know companies that, and I think you and I have joked about this in the past, but there are companies out there where you will go on a Facebook group, or in the old days, the forum. I think you and I talked about this before, but it's like people are arguing about a car wash soap or a wax or a polish. And they're arguing about 2 separate brands. And a week before, I was in the place that those came from, and they are literally the same product.
That's been my life.
Right.
What? I think that's been a running joke for me for about 22 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen it happen where, they're going back and forth, and I'm thinking, I know who makes that product. Most of them, they're all good friends. I just had said somebody, none of us are competitors.
Yeah.
We're all friendly. People think it's this vicious little, it's not. We all work together. If a blender's out of a raw good and they need it, hey, we're here for you. But I've seen so many people go back and forth, and I'll even know the chemist there, and I've even discussed, because I'm like, hey, I really like that, and you sit there and think it's just perception, and I think what it is color and scent are an experience to people, and I think people forget that. But when you smell your grape soda, that's Kevin's happy place.
Yeah.
And for me, I love everything that smells tropical, the bananas, the pina coladas. I smell those chemicals, and I'm more drawn to that as a detailing product. But then you got guys that love bubblegum smelling car wash, so you have to understand when people see and or smell something, it could be better than the one that they have next to them. But if it's grape soda, well, we're going grape soda. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I could probably send you all kinds of other products and you'd be like, Megan, grape soda still. So.
Yeah. And what's funny is that's the product I'm thinking of. The one I like so much is it's an okay product, but honestly, it's terrible for what you use it for. It's like one of those car show SEMA, let me use this product in order to make things look better than they are kind of product. And if those, that are listening have been around the industry and used very many brands, you may know the product I'm talking about. But, and I think that's that network. How has because you brought it up, right? You're networking with other blenders in the industry. You have spent and you said, 160 something brands that you guys carried at Auto Geek, the huge, what was the biggest superstore for detailing for a couple of decades, right? Like that was the place to go. And obviously now there are more and it's diversified, which is kind of good for everybody, honestly. But what I talked about, I had Rennie on, interviewed him last week. And Rennie Doyle and I always talk about this every time we talk, is that networking and that connection and the friendships that you get and how that transfers into, I'm like, yeah, I've known this guy for 15 years, and he's been at 3 companies since then. So like, if I had alienated him on a particular company, then that would not, things change.
Right.
But how is that? How did your 22 years working there at Auto Geek, we'll just refer to it as Auto Geek transfer now into what you're doing now, and how that has kind of served you moving forward?
I think what you have to understand is when you're dealing with other companies, I refer to it as how I deal with people. If you treat everybody with kindness, if you are respectful, and on the business side, professional, if you spend the time, get to know them, and work with them, they will also work with you. And, I think the pandemic was an eye opener for everybody, because we had a lot of people that just didn't buy into the we don't all have to hate each other method. And then they started running out of sprayers and bottles. And then they were like, you know what? I think I do like you. But you know what? Like, and I'm sure he doesn't even mind that I even say this, but like me and Bob Phillips, at PNS, we had a lot of very open conversations during COVID. Like, where are you getting your sprayers? What are this? Because all of our, everything just seized up and we couldn't get anything. And so,
Yep.
you
I was right there with you for sure.
So you can either, you can say, hey, I'm going to sit in my corner over at my house, and I'm only going to worry about my company. But your company's servicing the industry that your guy next door is also working with. So how about be neighborly and help the community grow, instead of you both trying to, what are you doing if you're going to be two opposite moving entities? Because we have a community. It's our industry. And we all want it to be better and bigger. We all want people to function in it more professional and nicer to each other. So if me and you are going to butt heads, and then we're going to try to go out there and make this a better place for us to grow our businesses, then who's winning? No, nobody's winning. And then I run out of sprayers, and I'm like, knock Kevin next door, and you're like, we're out of sugar, honey. Sorry. No, and so I have never bought into that competitor thing. Even when I was at Auto Geek, I will tell you this: I love Detailed Image. I love the guys there. People are always like, "Oh my gosh, you guys must hate Detailed Image." Why? I love them.
They're awesome. I love Detailed Image. Those guys are awesome.
Like the greatest group of guys, and no, I don't hate them. Like we're all in the same industry. If I'm doing a horrible job and they take spot number 1 away from me, well, guess what? That's on me.
Right.
I just do the best I can. And, and if a jam comes and you're like, hey guys, I can't take care of these customers, you can take them. That's the way you do it, because then if they get in a jam, I just think it's the whole, love thy neighbor, because if you function that way, you have less headaches. And you know what? I've tried to not make any enemies in this industry, and it's just, look at me now. I'm in a different company. God forbid. I mean, I didn't know a lot about it, but what if I had said, the owner's name's Ashley, like one day, like, oh, I don't really like Ashley, then I wouldn't be here. So to me, it's, you don't know where the future puts you, but if you just go back to the thought that we are all trying to grow this industry, and it is in the best interest of all of us, and there's enough room for all of us, think about it that way, and I just think your life becomes so much easier, especially when you're running.
I mean, 100%. I mean, and we're talking about more the supplier manufacturer side, but it's very, very true. Even at the single operator, detail shop, all of that. I see and obviously ego has always been a problem in our industry. It kind of always will be. And I've spoken very openly about that. I'm not shy about calling it out, because it's just, a lot of it's just ridiculousness. But it's, but to be able to make those connections with your people who are local, like you're all, Dude, if you're in Orlando, I don't know the population of Orlando. It's like 5 million people or more or something like that. Like there's a few cars to be
Yeah.
detailed in that town. And there's a bunch of detailers. But if you're not collaborating with other detail shops, whether it be shops or, if you're a mobile detailer and all of a sudden have an emergency and need a bay to come do a coating in for 6 hours one afternoon, if you've got good relationship with a few shops, you might be able to find somebody that would let you pull a car in there.
Yeah.
If like you, and if you're running low on a particular chemical or something like that. And, COVID was interesting from a supply standpoint. I've talked to Chris West from Solution Finish, and he's like, yeah, I remember my clown bottles, because he and I we're buying, because I make a similar product under his brand. And we were talking about getting these PET bottles. And he was like, yeah, I have a blue bottle with a red cap. Those are my, because that was literally I had blue bottles and amber bottles and black and white, and I don't care if it'll hold liquid and won't spill out, give it to me, because at that time you couldn't get anything. But it's that collaborative effort, and honestly, it makes things easier just to be around other people. This episode is brought to you by Detailer's Roadmap. Hey, spoiler alert, that's us. We all know you need a kick-ass website in order to be successful with your business. The good news is, at Detailer's Roadmap, kick-ass websites, that's kind of what we do. With the latest performance, designs, and SEO strategies, Detailer's Roadmap is your one-stop shop to be successful on the web. And don't forget, we have the best support team in the industry. Whether you're an existing partner looking to improve your lead generation or you need a brand new website, Detailer's Roadmap is here to help you be successful on the web. So go to detailersroadmap.com/success and get started today. That's detailersroadmap.com/SUCCESS. Especially in our industry, when we go to SEMA in a little bit, this will probably air after SEMA. But once we go to SEMA, those conversations, when you're not looking over your shoulder and say, oh, that guy's such a dick, or, he and I had a falling out or whatever, that sucks, to just have to deal with that.
Yeah. It takes away from what good can come about. And I think I will tell you this, if I look back to where the industry was, we'll say 20 years ago, I do feel like the detailers were more at odds with each other than they are now. I do feel like there is a little bit more of them working together. And I just think it's healthy for them. If you have too many clients and you can refer them, then he's going to do that for you. Mm-hmm. Heck, everybody takes vacation. People's family gets sick, emergencies come up, and then you've got a full book. If you find somebody and you work together with them instead of against them, you're both going to profit. Yeah. So I think people get stuck in their own head. And I also think, the one disservice we've done to this industry is the detailers. We have not given them enough of the business side of it. You can be a detailer, and detailing is an art form. It's a skill, it's a craft. But running a business is a different mindset. I'll tell you right now, I'm not capable of working in a shop running a polisher all day, but I can sit in this office. And usually that's the opposite way it works. Most people are really good at being in the shop all day, but they don't want to deal with the office. But unfortunately, unless you're big enough and you have an office manager and somebody that's managing your business, you've got to learn that other side of it. So I love it when I do see the training that people add on the business, the marketing, the insurance side of it, because, it's kind of sad. You train somebody to do a skill, but you don't give them what it's required to survive that skill. So, I think that's kind of what happens. And that's, I think, what leads to that mindset that detailers have. Well, I can't help this guy out because it's going to take money away from me. No, you need to work with somebody to help each other so that you're not losing money. So I don't know. It's a hard industry when it comes to that part.
Yeah. To your point about business, and we've talked about it a bunch on different episodes, but when I started Detailer's Helper, first of all, I was amazed that product didn't exist. So that was fun. But when I first started, I was like, where do I find information about the business of detailing? Because I was I had run my own shop and had run multiple businesses to that point and all that. So I actually started doing content specifically for business. Like, let's talk about garage keepers and liability insurance and how to do your books and knowing your numbers and all of those things, which luckily over time, I got to stop doing it because so many other people were doing it, and so many other people were educating the industry about that. When it comes to that camaraderie that you're talking about and that shift from, 20 years ago to now, do you see that as like a longevity thing, an age thing? Because obviously someone that's like us, we're 50, kind of in that different age grade. We've what do they say? We know how to do it. We've seen a few things. Isn't that the farmers insurance insurance say? We've seen a few things and we've been there. Is that something you see a transition? Or are you seeing some of the new detailers come in with more of a camaraderie networking based ideology?
I'll be honest with you. I feel like the younger detailers that are coming in now are doing a better job than the younger detailers were 20 years ago. The joy that I have is we do have a pretty good sized retail store in the front of our building, and we sell RO water to the detailers. So, sometimes I like to go down there and talk to them. It's always great to kind of hear how things are going. And I've seen several of them pull up at the same time and they're like, Hey, Bob, how you doing? They know each other. They're talking to each other. I don't even see that, oh, he said, or, she said this, back in the day, it's like, oh, well, I've got a detailer trying to, come in on my turf. And, I don't hear that anymore. And I will tell you, the shop stays pretty busy and they've come in and out. And luckily one time they actually let me cover for a whole hour in the shop. So I got 3 whole sales and just talking to them, they're so, I don't see that anymore. So I don't know. I feel like the industry's changed and, we haven't put down those hard, old habits for them. I do think the IDA has played a nice role in some of the stuff too, because, it's encouraged detailers to come together in terms of events, education. And when you start bringing people together, then they realize this guy's not too bad after all, or, hey, we could work together on something. It's just like, I was just looking, Rennie's got, what is it? The IGL training up at Big Bear coming up. And
the Aegis. Yeah.
Yeah. And I thought, you know what? How cool. That's not a brand Rennie has normally worked with. Joel and IGL, it's a great brand. It's different. And it adds a whole nother component to detailers to make an income. That's Aegis is, it's kind of mind blowing. It's like, wow. But like, even in the parts where you're at, that there's so many people in your farmland that have some tractors, you know what I mean? But like, it adds a whole new layer onto the options of bringing in some profit just with some good training. And so I like to see that even the companies are all working together. The trainers are working together. It's not like, oh, I train for this company, you train for this. Hey, no, we're coming together because we have something we can offer to the detailer to make them more money. So I like to see that.
Yeah, I had Joel on the podcast and we talked a ton about Aegis, and holy crap, and I've been, they're posting more about it now, and dude, that stuff is amazing. And we talked about the fact that, and farm country, I don't think people realize that a combine or an 8-wheel tractor that you see, they're $350,000 to like $750,000. Like, you think you're cool because you have a Porsche in your shop. Like you got a guy that's got 3 combines. We have they're called custom cutters. I don't know if you're familiar with that term, but custom cutters, we're in wheat country here. But what custom cutters do is that they literally work their way through the season. They start in South Texas and work all the way to North Canada. And so as the wheat comes in, all they do is cut wheat all day long. So they'll have 3 combines. They have the dump truck, and then they have the truck that runs to the grain bin in town. But so their operating expenses just to buy the equipment is a few $1 million. And then, the fuel and all of those things. So thank a farmer if you have it today for your bread that you bought. But all that to say that is a great thing that needs to be protected because they get the crap beaten out of them. They're covered in absolute dust and muck and all of that. They've got to clean all that out. So all that to say, Joel's making a pretty, they've got a pretty good product with that. And Joel, is one of those guys that really has a vision to help build the industry up and help everybody be better.
Enthusiastic.
Yeah, enthusiastic.
That's my word for him.
I like Joel. Hey, we were talking before about this whole idea that, and it was a spoiler alert for you that you happen to be a female in a male dominated industry, right? Like that's, I know that's a great surprise to you. You may have been told that one or two times during your career, but I think it's super interesting that now, that you're in a company, a major chemical company that's also run by a woman. And, kind of talk about because we don't talk about this much. There aren't a huge number of female detailers out there. There's more now than there was obviously 20 years ago. But how does that factor into what's going on in the industry with your ability to do what you do in the industry, working for, a female CEO, which is, maybe a little bit different. And, I'm not trying to be misogynistic. I'm genuinely interested because like I said, I run in that circle. Michelle is deeply involved in the all female trades, which means I'm around female welders and fabricators and car builders and hot rod or painters and all that. And we joke because when I'm there, a lot of times I'm the only dude. And she accuses me of enjoying this, but I do get a little bit of fun play, sexual harassment from the other side, which I think is hilarious and kind of fun. But, I'm just curious. Because we've talked to them, obviously, I know their experiences in this. So I'm just interested in kind of your experience and what you see happening with the female side of the business, of the industry, and kind of how all that plays together.
Yeah, I think it's much different now than it was when I started. If you had asked me 22 years ago, like, hey, what's it like to be in this industry and like the only female in any, running any company, and even at that time, I didn't even hear of any, lady detailers. So you feel like you're on an island of your own. But I think for me, the whole point that really was probably, expressed was you have to work a little bit harder. They're not going to accept you if you come in and you're, mediocre or even good. You can,
Mm-hmm.
you need to be a little bit beyond great. Otherwise, you're not going to be respected. And I think it took me a little while in this industry to kind of get, that respect. And I was okay with that because, I kind of like things done and done right. I'm probably, in terms of a boss, I'm a bit of a hard ass, but, I don't want anybody to work any harder than I'm working.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I've always been surrounded by guys, and when they start to get a little, oh, well, I don't want to do, I'm like, really? I'll do it, so,
Yeah.
From things like jumping on a forklift, not that I should, because it's not my area of expertise, but, it's been a rough road from the beginning. I don't think for the past 10 years, I've even made a note of it. I did, at some point a few years ago say, you know what, the training, especially when I was at Auto Geek, we lacked the female side of that. And, then we found a great trainer, Robin Sweet. We brought her on.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that also kind of opened some things up. There's some things that guys do better than girls and some things girls do better than guys. To be honest with you, I think women will teach at a more patient level. They're used to explaining things to, 2-year-old. So
Mm-hmm.
how to do things in a little bit more step-by-step manner. I think there are some great bonuses for the women that are entering this industry. There's a lot we can all gain from that. When it comes to running a company, I've obviously now worked for, female bosses and male bosses. I'm going to tell you, our owner, she's as much of a hard ass as I am, when I met her and I was like, you know what, this is somebody that's going to require as much from me as I require from myself, in the workplace. And so I felt good about that because you don't, you don't want to work alongside of somebody that's not giving what you're giving. You
Mm-hmm.
know, you tend to, that's when people start feeling unappreciated and this and that. But I feel like I'm in a great place. I don't ever consider people like, oh, wow, you have a female owner of the company. I'm like, no, we have a badass owner. That's who
Yeah.
we have.
Yeah.
She happens to be a female. Who cares?
Which, when
She's
you're
not.
running a major company with employees, like, you can't be a soft female, really, and you can't be a soft male either. Like, there are certain ways that you have to behave in order to be effective at that job.
Yeah. And you also have to be able to step back and be sympathetic. You have to have empathy. You have to be compassionate. Your employees are people, they're part of your family. You have to treat them that way. Not that a woman will do better, but there are a lot more instances where a woman is a little bit more compassionate. So,
Mm-hmm.
you have to be a hard ass, but you also have to know when to step back and say, this employee needs me right now, not just as their boss, but they need, somebody from the family to kind of step in. So there are great advantages. Can I tell you that I see anything different? No, not really. It's just, but I do see that the industry is treating women differently, and it makes me happy for those that are, coming up. We have some amazing female detailers. We have
Mm-hmm.
amazing female trainers. And I think the fact that they have stepped up and, they're like, we're here to stay. The guys are like, all right, cool, come on, because they're not doing anything that the guys aren't going to do. So,
Mm-hmm.
at some point you have to say, who's making the difference here? We're making the difference because we're talking about it. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
At
Yeah.
some point, hopefully, we're not talking about it anymore. And
Yeah.
we're just saying, hey, we've got detailers, we've got CEOs. I don't care if she wears a dress and has pink toenail polish, or, if he's in cowboy boots and, dirty old jeans. Get the job done. It doesn't matter who you are, but let's get it done, and let's all treat each other, equally. And I just think that we're really close to finally being there. And I think it's
and I totally agree. I love it. And what's interesting, that I've always found interesting about this dichotomy in this industry in particular, is that it's not particularly physically demanding either way. In other words, and again, not to sound misogynistic or sexist, but there are certain jobs that require, massive upper body strength. And in general, men would have heavier upper body strength than women. It's just biology. But detailing, the tools are not super heavy. The job is not like overly taxing, or any of that. Like, there is no, and this is coming out wrong, but there's no physical difference between the two, between male and female, with their ability to do this job. So it's always surprised me that it is so male dominated, because most of the women I know are far more detailed,
yes,
than the men that I know. So excuse the pun, but it's like, why do we have more female detailers? Quite honestly, why isn't it a more female dominated industry? But I agree. People like Sydney and Robin and, Jen Torcott up in, Wisconsin. And, that's just to name a few, Christine Mudden and, all these girls, it's great to see them have a more visible presence in the industry and really start taking what is really a leadership role to then inspire other female detailers to kind of step up and do more.
Yeah, and I think it's good just for paving the way. I think it was, and I'm probably going to quote this wrong, but I think it was 2 years ago, Air Force One project, and Robin Sweet was there, and a group of kids walked through. And I can't even remember the exact words, but I believe one of the girls walked up and said, hey, girls can do this. And that's, a young kid shouldn't even have to ask that question. Of course you can. You do whatever you want to. I don't. Yeah. You could fly the jet. I don't care. Do what you want to do. You decide where you're going to go in life, and I don't care what it is. But for me, it's even sad that had to be asked. Mm-hmm. But I love that Robin was there doing it, and that girl saw that and said, "Oh wait, this is opportunity for me too." So. The more they're out there, the better it is. And to your point, I hate to say this, but I'd rather a girl clean my car, especially the interior, than a guy. It's just like, you ever been to your, single guys' friends' apartments, and then you go to the single girls' apart? Well, they're going to look different. I don't care how you stack it.
Yeah, for sure. So, 100%. Yeah, I always borrow this line from Mike Rowe, but I think that's actually a really good place to land the plane, as he says it. I think that I've really enjoyed learning more about what you're doing. You and I have had so many conversations over the years, but then to be able to kind of, at least be a very minor part in participating in what you have going on now, and the excitement and seeing it on Facebook and seeing this brand grow. It's super exciting to see what you've got going on. Because I mean, you're awesome at what you're doing. You're an awesome lady, and I consider myself fortunate to be your friend. So I appreciate you taking the time to do this.
Thank you.
Head over to detailersroadmap.com and get your one-stop success solution today.